Welcome to Pathways to Greatness, where we explore the journeys of exceptional individuals who have achieved remarkable success in their fields. Whether you're an aspiring athlete, a business leader, or simply someone striving to reach your full potential, this podcast is your guide to unlocking the greatness within you. Join us as we dive into inspiring stories, practical strategies, and the mindset shifts that can transform your path to greatness. Let's embark on this journey together. All right, here we are, Pathways to Greatness. I'm your host, Jeff Forrester. And today's episode, I'm so excited about, and I've been thinking about this one for a while. Nathan Wray is a gentleman that I met through Phil, who has led me to a ton of different people that I've brought on the podcast. He's the ultimate connector. And so I greatly appreciate this. And I just knew that I just had this deep connection and just like for Nathan. And if you follow him at all, you can't help but really like him and like the message that he presents. But he is a youth speaker, but also an adult speaker. He focuses a lot on youth, and he shares what he does and why he does it, and then gives you some real practical things to put into play. And so one of the things that he shared, I'm not going to tell you everything up front, but is that you need to have a never quit, never die attitude. He learned that from his dad and his grandfather. It's also one of the important things that stood out to me of why I have a note is to take what people say with a grain of salt. And that's take what they say good and bad as well. And then we get into then what's necessary for you to not even take what you say in your own mind, take that with a grain of salt as well. So without further ado, I'm stumbling over my words because I'm really excited about this episode. You're going to hear it. I think we go 25 minutes in before we even get to the meat of the content because of just everything that Nathan shares just hits me at home. And I just could talk to the guy forever. And like I said, is that we were like at an hour and 5 minutes. And I was like, okay, I think should wrap this up for his benefit. And then we'll have Nathan on again just because he has a lot to share. So please go find and follow him. So ladies and gentlemen, Nathan Wray. Unleash your potential with Concrete Consulting. Are you a student athlete striving for greatness? Do you want to enhance your mental performance and elevate your game? At Concrete, we specialize in mental performance and success coaching tailored for student athletes, parents, and coaches. Our expert coaches provide personalized strategies to boost confidence, improve focus, and achieve your goals both on and off the field. Don't just play the game, conquer it. Visit concreteconsulting.com and schedule your free consultation today. Take the first step towards success. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Pathways to Greatness podcast. I'm joined with a guest I'm very excited about. We were connected probably, was it 4 months, 6 months ago? It's a lot longer than I think that we think it is.
Yeah, 6 months probably.
Something like that. And it was the great Phil J that connected us, I believe.
The main connector of the world. I call him 6 degrees, because the 6 degrees of separation. Do you know that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I call Phil, because I think Phil can connect everyone within like 6 degrees of separation. Like Phil can connect anybody. It's incredible.
And what's awesome about the way he does it is it's so genuine. And it's not a surprise that Phil would be genuine in what he does because he's not getting anything out of any of the connections that he makes. It's just he's like, hey, I see 2 awesome people that I think might like each other and have something to talk about. And then he connects and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is just like I see the benefit that they bring and I see the benefit that they bring, and they would work so well together. And they should be joined together, and that's what he does, and I love that about him. Wonderful guy.
That's awesome.
This should just be the Phil J podcast. Let's just talk about
it. Should be.
I had him on
a while back. Yeah, exactly. I had him on a while back, and it was a wonderful episode. And he brings so much energy, and you can't help but smile and be excited for the rest of the day when you talk to him.
Yeah, I agree. I
But
agree.
everybody, this is Nathan Wray. How are you?
Yeah. Hey, I'm doing great. I loving life and just feeling blessed and thankful to be here. Thanks for having
Awesome.
me.
You're welcome. Well, before we get into who you are and a lot of the specifics, I like to play a game before we get started called Would You Rather. Are you ready?
Oh, all right. Let's go.
Okay. So, would you rather freeze time or go back in time?
Let's go with freeze time.
Okay. Why so?
I'm enjoying it right now. I feel like I'm in this prime. It's a where I'm at right now. It's a little bit scary, but it's awesome. Um, and my kids are at this age where, they're grown up. They're still kind of kids, but they're grown up as well. And I'm just enjoying where they're at right now. And if I could just keep it that way, I definitely would.
I like what you said about that it's a little scary right now. Have you always been a risk taker in life?
Nope. No.
So why do you think that the fact that things are a little scary right now makes you, because your face, for those of you who aren't watching video, he smiled when he said that it's a little scary right now. And what do you think is creating that excitement around the scariness of it?
I think that the impact that I see that's being made. Um, and we haven't even dug into this, but when I'm speaking at schools, typically afterwards, there will be a student that will stay after. A lot of students stay after and talk to me, but there's usually one that is going through something very, very difficult, and they will sit down with me and they will say, this really helped me, or they'll ask, how do I deal with this, or is there a resource for me, for someone like me? And it gives me that opportunity to deliver on those things and make an impact on a whole gymnasium auditorium full of students, but also I know that like I made a deeper impact on just one student, and that was an impact that I needed as a student that I did not get. And so that's what makes it exciting for me. The scary part is I'm self-employed and I've never been self-employed before, and it's a little bit strange. And like December and January, those are dead months. And it's scary, but you pray, you plan, and you work through it. So yeah.
What a great description, because like you, I'm self-employed as well, and everybody's excited about self-employment until they become self-employed. They have this vision of I can do whatever I want, I get to set my hours, which is 100% true, but meaning that your hours are all the time
Right,
if
right,
you're trying
right.
to if you're trying to be successful.
Yeah, you can definitely set your own hours. Like you can take your family out to eat, you can take them shopping, but just know that like those hours that you're doing that, you're gonna have to on the back end of things, you're gonna have to make up those hours, late into the night, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, you're still working because you're trying to get business. And a lot of people think like, and so many times kids are like, oh man, being a speaker, that must be awesome. Like you're famous. And I'm like, I'm not, first of all, I'm not famous. Second of all, it is awesome, but it's not as, it's not as bright lights as everybody thinks that it is, right? Like I don't know about you, but you see like the main speakers, those guys that are very top notch, the Gary V's, and everybody else that fits in that category, and they're like, oh man, that's amazing, that's great. Where they are, they built that business, that's great. Where I'm at, that's not where I'm at. That's not where I'm at. So it is a little bit scary, but it's exciting at the same time. And
Right. It's like the
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I love what I do. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, yeah, it can be scary, but I love what I do, and I don't want to do anything else.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were making that description, it's like the up and coming musician that's still playing coffee houses, and the big break is getting to play the farmers market where
Right,
there's more people. So we're far away from Madison Square Gardens,
right.
but it's part of it.
It's yeah, it's and that's I think that's the thrill of it too. It's like, yeah, I'm right now I'm doing the Rotary Club, but in a month or two I might be doing a state meeting. So, you
I
know,
was I've started writing small little cards. I actually started today with my kids and hiding that either in their lunchbox or in their computer. So when they open it. So I want to read you today's because this has something to do with what we talked about. So
I
it's
love it.
not one of that you would normally go to. It's in Zechariah 4:12. Oh no, 4:10. Sorry. In the beginning of it, do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin.
Yep.
And well, it's not funny because we're both believers in the Bible, and
Yep.
that there's never a coincidence. But it's funny that you say that, and that was the card that I wrote them today, because we all have to start at small beginnings.
Yeah, and I think too, Jeff, like, the small beginnings and recognizing those moments and having those experiences, they keep you grounded and they remind you of where you came from and where you started. And I think that's really important as a believer, that you don't forget where you came from and how you got there, because I didn't get here on my own. Like, God brought me to this point. He established every single path, every single hardship, every single victory. Like, he established all of it for me, and that's why I'm where I'm at today. And he'll continue to do that. As long as I'm obedient and continue to worship him and praise him and give him the glory, then he'll continue to do it. And that's the plan for me. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it. It's very interesting how God works like that, though. Like the note that you put in, um, something similar happened. I'll have to think of what it was. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking of a situation that just happened recently that was very similar to this.
Just waiting for it to come forward.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
when
It's
you
in
think
it's
of
in
it,
there. It's in there somewhere.
and this is why I knew this would be great. And for the audience, Nathan and I we've only spoken on the phone once, but we've communicated via text and of course over Instagram. But I knew it was going to be good. We're 10 minutes in and we've only hit one question. So,
Right, right.
and we haven't even gotten to the meat of everything. But this is what I love about having these conversations, because I go into it with, these are the only pre-scripted questions, are the fun ones at the very beginning. And then it's all about just going where I believe where the Holy Spirit takes you, because somebody needs to
Yeah.
hear the message that we're putting out. So here's the second one.
Okay.
Would you rather live without music or TV?
TV.
What do you like to listen to?
Um, Man, I've got to be. I'm just going to be honest. I love. Oh man, I love '90s gangster rap. I always have. More importantly, I mean, I love worship music. I probably listen to that more than anything. But I'm telling you, man, back in the '90s, I was that little gangster kid and wanted to be Ice Cube and Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, and I think my favorite song was "Regulators" by Nate Dogg and Warren G. And then as a Nathan, everybody called me Nate in high school, and then I became Nate Dogg in high school, and so I just embraced that. And I do like Christian rap that is not played on like Air One or any of those other K-Love or anything like that, because it's if you listen to it, it's very theological, but it's different, and I really enjoy that as well.
You'll have to send me some artists because I try to mix it up for me and listen to different ones when I work out if I'm not listening to a podcast.
Yeah,
And like you know, again, I'm a I guess a 70s baby. I don't know. I was born in 73.
yeah,
So that 80s to 90s really resonates because that's when you're really, you know, that's where is being shaped. What I like is young people now are going back to the music that we were raised with because I think that there's more soul and depth to it.
yep,
Now, it's pretty shallow. You listen to some of the stuff and you're going, "Holy smokes!" You know, they're not saying anything either, and we sound like
right.
our parents when we're complaining about what the kids are listening to these days. But there is a difference in the depth of a lot of the previous, and I think that's why artists like Post Malone and some of these other artists are really starting to catch on because there is Jelly Roll. There's depth to
Yep,
the music. There's soul in there, regardless of what the beat is.
yep,
There's it's like poetry. There's meaning
yeah,
behind the words.
yeah. I know that similar situation for me was growing up. As I got older, I wanted to listen to the music that my dad was listening to when he was younger, because I felt like there was just more depth in that. There was more meaning in that, with the things that were going on in the world at the time, the people were writing for those situations, and I just like connected with that, and then I became, a dad, and I don't know what happened. I started like my kids were listening to music, and I was like, I don't even know what this is. But I will tell you that. Uh, do you remember Preachers in Disguise? PID, the rap group
Yes.
from.
Yes.
Okay, so one of their members, Fred Lynch, followed me on TikTok and on Instagram, and I was like, huh, okay, all right, this is cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
Now we just are waiting for Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre to find you.
I know, I know. Well, here's the thing. I think maybe Fred Lynch is wanting to collaborate on a rap album with me. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
You never know. You could be the sleeper. Okay.
Right. But I
Would
I
you
don't
rap?
watch. I don't have TV.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't I don't do TV. So that was an easy one for me. So used to do it and don't do it anymore. I don't have time for it.
Well, and it's time. And my wife and I were talking. There's different series that come on that we'd like to watch, and the time is a challenge. But then you sit there and you'll flip around. There's 1,000 channels, and there's never anything on. And I like the idea. When we were younger, we were forced to watch a handful of shows, and it's because there was nothing else on. So if you wanted to watch TV, you had to do that. And that's the
Yep.
problem that young people have today is there's too many choices. It's the cheesecake factory menu type syndrome where I don't even know where to begin. And they're losing that the ability to just be bored and to
Yep.
have an imagination. And we're suffering from it too as adults. Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But I've started to rewatch MASH, and it
Oh
just
yeah.
brings back so many wonderful memories. But you think about it, it was like you had MASH, Gilligan's Island, Father's Knows Best, I Dream of Jeannie, like all these
Yep.
shows that young kids don't normally watch, but there was nothing
Mm-mm.
else to watch, so you watched it.
Yeah. Yeah, Emergency. I made my kids.
Oh,
I
I
made my
love that
kids.
show.
I know my kids. We watched um, the entire thing from season one to the last season, and that was a really long time ago. Um, but I don't do TV, and I don't. Again, I don't have the time for it. But I still think there's just so much. There's so much division on TV, and I can't have that in my life. I don't want division. I've had enough division in my life. I just don't want it there anymore. And I try to use my avoidance of that trigger as a coping skill. And so if I can avoid that trigger as much as possible when I'm around it, then I'm a little bit more healthy in those situations. I'm not overreactive. I'm not over angry or over emotional in those situations. And so I try so hard to avoid division. And there's just so much on TV. And I don't know, it's weird. TV's weird.
That it is. And
Yeah.
Nathan brings up a really good point that I hope everybody heard, is when you find the triggers that push you into the wrong response, which then changes your results that you're looking for, you have to eliminate those triggers or
Yeah.
learn how to manage them better. And so, like you, I probably haven't watched the news in 5 or 6 years, other
Yeah.
than like when a hurricane comes on or if there's a special clip. But like Fox News, like none of that stuff. Because, and some people have said, well, you're just uneducated now, you're uninformed, you're living with your head in the sand. I'm like, no. Oh, I mean, if it's big enough, it will make its way to me. But
Yep.
I don't have time, and I don't like the way it makes me feel. I just don't.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I don't, if there's something that I need to know about, it will make its way to me. And there are people around me that will say, hey, you might want to take a look at this, or, did you see this happening? One of the things that I will go back to is on the triggers is, that's one, like TV, that division thing for me. That's one trigger that I've not learned how to manage effectively, to where I know that I have the right coping skills in place to be around it constantly. And so that's why I use the word avoid, because I do avoid it, not out of to make me feel better or just to avoid situations, but right now I'm working on other things, and that's one of the things that's kind of like, you know what? I don't really need TV. I'm okay. I can avoid those things, and if division does come up in my life, I'm in a spot where, okay, I can either, hey, I don't need to talk about this right now, or give me 10 minutes. Let me come back to this, and we can talk about it. I just can't, like, for right now, I'm working on other things that I can't focus on that one trigger right now. And so eventually I will. I'll develop some coping skills, some great coping skills for it, but right now I just don't, like, honestly, other than avoidance, I don't have them.
Yeah, I think that's a great example, and I know that the audience will benefit from that because you've got to prioritize what's the most important, and you have other things that are taking your priority, and so the best way is just not have it. So it's the old, I can't say no to cookies, so I'm just not going to buy cookies and keep them in the
Right.
house. That's a perfect way to handle an unhealthy trigger. 'Cause I don't know
Yep.
about you, but Oreos talk to me. Like I hear them, their audible voice when I walk by the pantry. So I just don't buy them anymore.
They call my name, Jeff. They know
They
me
do.
by name.
And it's like the sweet sound of a siren, when
I know.
they, that the, that the pirates had to challenge with. You're like, they're singing to me. I can't say
I know.
no.
I know. I'm diving in.
Yeah.
As,
Yeah. And they say just
as your
one. And next thing I know is it's one every 15 minutes.
right, as your family watches you jump overboard into the sea of Oreos.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's a blissful jump. I'm going cannonball when I go in. It's like I'm screaming and I'm smiling as I go, but then I
I
regret
know.
it. So
I
it's
know.
well, speaking of food, so would you
Yeah.
rather have pizza or tacos?
Tacos.
What kind?
My mom's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my mom is Mexican, and she's at the age now where she doesn't cook anymore, and so we don't get to have her tacos anymore, and man, I'd probably give my left arm for one of those tacos again. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
awesome. That's special
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
All right, so the last one is if you came
Okay.
with a warning label, what would it say?
Sarcastic.
Okay.
Yeah. I not in a mean spirited way. I just try to find the sarcasm in a lot of things, and I probably don't even have an example right now, um, but I don't know. I try to look for the funny in everything, and I guess sometimes that a lot of times that comes off as sarcasm, and so um, it can offend people sometimes just because they don't realize I'm joking or trying to make a joke and make them laugh, and they don't see that and they don't know that about me, and so it can come across the wrong way, and so that would be my warning label
Yeah.
is sarcastic. Yeah.
And that's one of those things in society that I wish could come back.
Mm,
That and comedians never lost it because they're brilliant. They see the sarcasm in everything. They're very observational by nature. So they see the weird things and then they make fun
hmm.
of it. And
Yep.
there's nothing that's too sacred. And I feel like that's something that is healthy to be able to do that and understand that you don't take it personal. And sometimes people can be mean and it cuts a little too deep and it's more bully-ish than sarcasm and
Right.
fun. At the same time, people need to really embrace the sarcasm and the humor and look for, okay, what was the meaning and the intent behind that? It clearly was not mean spirited.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up. I would get in trouble as a little kid because I would watch A&E an evening at the Improv, and I would fall asleep on the couch watching a comedy show that I wasn't supposed to watch. And I would watch Def Comedy Jam, and I'd get in trouble for that too. I wasn't supposed to watch that, but I wanted to be like watching those shows. I wanted to be a comedian. Like I wanted to write jokes and make people laugh and I would do that. I would do it at school and then that would get me in trouble. And I would do it at home and around all of my friends and that's what I wanted to do. And so I developed like this really good, I guess, knack for it, and that's just who I became. I never pursued it because as I got older, it was just like uncool to be on stage, and there were much cooler things to do than to be a comedian. I followed the crowd, and so I never did it, um, but I've always loved comedy and that type of sarcasm. And I will say that, there is some people will push you to a point to where you do have to react. It doesn't mean that you're a bully, but I've seen comedians that are being heckled and heckled and heckled, and then they react to that, and they're not being a bully. It's the heckler that's being the bully, and then the bully goes, "Oh, you're bullying me," and it's like, no, man, like you have to take accountability for your actions. They just responded, didn't have to respond, but they still did. But I've always loved comedy. And I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll give it a shot.
Well, it trained you to be a public speaker.
Yeah. Yeah. It really did. And it really gave me the confidence because I can talk to anybody. Doesn't matter who you are. I can talk to you. I can find something in common with just about anybody really quick. And then we can have a conversation for quite a while. And that gave me that confidence to stand in front of a crowd of people, knowing that, something I'm going to say is going to relate to every single one of these people in this audience.
Yep, that's great. That's great. Nathan, thank you. I knew this was going to be fun. And we'll get to the meat of everything that we invited you here for. The proverbial me. Like there's a team. It's me and then the dog sitting in the chair behind me. Um, but Nathan, I started this podcast back in 2023. And with the intent, one is to have wonderful conversations like we've already started to have today, and all the people that I've spoken with already, because I want people to understand that everybody has a different definition of greatness. And even more importantly, everybody has a different pathway on that journey towards greatness. and that nobody yet that I've spoken to has a linear straight line from point A to point B. It's ups and downs, twists and turns, challenges, setbacks, and then that overcoming story that's there. And so I just want to inspire, motivate, and equip people to not quit, because when you're up against it and you feel like you have no motivation, you're not inspired, what are the skills that I can tap into that will just help me keep going? And so that's why I wanted to bring you on, because I know that's what you do on a regular basis with young people. So before we go any further, what is your definition of greatness?
So I knew you were going to ask that, and I guess I would have to say my definition of greatness would be that like never quit, never die attitude. That no matter what happens, um, no matter where you're at in life, that you are still fighting. No matter how many times you get pushed down, you're still getting back up. Like that's I learned that from two different men in my life, and that was my grandfather on my mom's side, and I learned that from my dad. Those two were never quit, never die um, type of men. My grandfather um, came to America legally, and he became a migrant worker and moved his family into a chicken coop, and they lived in a chicken coop for years. And I mean, and ended up getting a job in a factory, and just kept doing more and more and fighting and fighting. And it made a really great life for his family. My dad joined the military at a young age, and was colorblind, and was told that he would never work in any type of special forces or anything like that. And my dad ended up working on Air Force One, and then the National Emergency Airborne Command Post, which is kind of like the sisterhood to Air Force One. So, and that's from that never quit, never die attitude. It's I can do anything as long as I keep working for it. The moment that I quit working for it, can't accomplish it.
Nathan, thank you. And what stood out to me is the importance of us, not only as fathers, but as humans, as people are watching you all the time.
All the
So,
time.
so what kind of example are you setting for them? And, listening to the story about your grandfather and even your father, they had opportunities that they had plenty of excuses that they could have made for themselves, that society and normal people was like, no, I get it, I understand, I can see
Yes.
why you didn't do what you wanted to do, or take the easy way out. But it's through that examples that it sets you up to be able to help other people as well. So just the lesson there is people are always watching.
Always watching, and it poses the question of what type of man do you want to be? What type of father do you want to be? And there are times where I've messed up as a dad, and I've had to go look in the mirror and go, is this the type of dad you want to be? Is this the type of man you want to be? And I think if you can ask yourself that question, if you here's the thing, if you're listening and you're about to be a new dad, go look in the mirror and ask yourself that question, and then write down your answer, so that every single time that you do mess up as a dad, you can go back to that answer and go, okay, I back on track. Now I know where to go, now I know what to do, and I can work this out. And because sometimes, well, I know that there have been times as a dad where I've messed up so bad that I've been like, man, I think I'm just going to give up. I don't even know what to do next, And going back to that question, what type of bad dad do I want to be? Um, that's put me right back on track to, okay, all right, you had your moment, you had your I want to give up, I want to quit moment, but now you're back on track, and we can get through this.
Yeah, and that's so great that you shared that as well, primarily because I've failed multiple times, and any parent has. There's no perfect parent that's out there.
No.
And when you look back, you see those mistakes, you're like, ooh, I wish I would have handled that differently. And you can moving forward. The other critical thing that popped up when you were saying that is never be too big for your britches that you can't say you're sorry to your kids, but then
Yep.
explain to them what happened, why it happened. Of course, age appropriate. It all depends on the age of your children, but have that explanation to hopefully prepare them to say, you know what, my dad was he was honest with me. He blew up, he, popped off real quick, and then he went back and said I'm sorry, but then he explained to me why he reacted the way he reacted and why he felt like he could have done differently.
Yep. Yeah. I I'll tell you a really cool situation that happened for me as a dad, um, which told me like in the moment I was getting it wrong, but in the season I was getting it right. And we were doing a family fun day. We took the kids to Pigeon Forge. We live close to Pigeon Forge, and so we took them to Pigeon Forge. We were doing putt putt golf. We were doing restaurants. We were doing all that stuff, um, all the fun stuff. And one of my daughters just was not did not seem appreciative, and I just kept saying little things under my breath that she could hear. Um, Instead of handling it in the right way, that's what I was doing. I was saying little things because it was division, right? And I don't do well with division. And so I was making my comments, and that was making her more frustrated and what seemed like more unappreciative. My other two daughters, in a moment where they could pull me aside, they were like, "Hey, Dad, come here really quick. Let us show you something." And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, what?" And they said, "Hey, we just wanted to bring you over here because we want to let you know what was going on with her, and you need to know that this is going on, and it's not that she's not having a good time, that she's experiencing this in her life, and you're reacting in a negative way, which is making it harder on her. And if you could just be a little bit more like supportive of, hey, I'm here, whatever mood you're in, I love you regardless, and all of that, then that would help her, and it would also help everybody have a really good rest of the time." That told me in that moment with my daughter that didn't seem to be appreciative, I wasn't I wasn't behaving well as a dad. But when my other two daughters pulled me aside, I realized in my season of being a father, I was doing it right in some way because they knew that they could pull me aside and say, "Hey, Dad, like you're not only messing this up with her, like you're kind of making the whole day kind of rough for the rest of us. So if you could get it together and this is what's going on, she's not going to tell you, but we're telling you, so let's have fun." Like that was a really awesome moment as a dad.
Oh, I'm sure. Just the fact that the other ones, one, that they communicate together as siblings to know that. And then two, that they were able and felt comfortable enough to come to you to hit you between the eyes with the hard truth. And then three, that you weren't too proud or had too much of an ego to say thank you and we'll shift gears and I'll try to do what I can do to make this even better.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I can be egotistical sometimes, but I mean, when I look back at my life, I realize that if there's one thing that I've done in the past, it's mess up. And, I can make mistakes but I can learn from them. And if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, you're messing up, you're not doing this right," I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna look at it, and I'm going to examine it and either go, "Yeah, you're right. Like I'm messing up and I need to fix that," or I'm gonna go, "You know what, I feel like I'm doing what God is calling me to do and what I'm supposed to do, and I'm gonna keep doing it." And just because you don't like it, that's a he didn't call us to ministry, he called me to ministry. So you don't have to like it. So there's there's two ways that I try to handle it, but I never try to handle it in an arrogant spirit because that's, I don't know, I can't deal with an arrogant spirit. That's another, I guess that's another trigger for me. But yeah.
I hear you. I hear you top to bottom. So why don't you bring the audience up to speed of who you are, and more importantly, I want them to know what you do and what your message is to teens.
Yeah, so I'm a military brat. I grew up kind of all over the Midwest. My brother did get to go overseas. I never got to go overseas, which I give him a hard time about all the time. Um, but I'm a military brat. I did not graduate high school on time. I was actually kicked out of high school about 3 weeks before our graduation. That was due to my decisions and my actions. And once I left high school, I just kind of popped around the country and didn't have any direction in life, didn't believe in God, and just wanted to fight. Like I just wanted to fight everything. I wanted to fight responsibility. I wanted to fight um, spirituality. Like I just wanted to be divisive. That's who I wanted to be. And I landed in Nashville, Tennessee at some point. I got a job, and I that's where I met my wife. I met her at work, and we we have 4 kids. But I wasn't a great dad at the beginning. Wasn't a great husband at the beginning. Still struggled with some alcohol issues and some drug issues, um, and you know, she told me like, "Hey, you got to get your life together, or you got to get out." And so I made the right choice, and uh, took a little bit, took a little bit to get my life together, because it does, it just doesn't happen overnight. And I'm sure for some people they can do that, but that was not me. Um, and we, neither one of us were believers, and um, we ended up moving to East Tennessee, the Knoxville area, and moved into an apartment. We were not wealthy. We were very, very poor. Moved into an apartment, and the owner was a Christian and invited us to church. And my wife decided she wanted to go to church one day, and I was like, "You're crazy." And so we all went to church, and we both ended up getting saved in 2009. And then just kind of I jumped into youth ministry and started serving youth. We both kind of jumped into it, like just helping, volunteering in the youth department. um, then I became a pastor, and then I moved into a youth pastor role, went back to pastoring. But I worked for a nonprofit. I was a bivocational pastor. I worked for a nonprofit that was serving the community to prevent youth from using substances. And I'd been doing that for 7 years, for the past 7 years. And I was finding myself speaking at more and more schools and conferences all over the US. And so I had to make a decision like, what do I want to do? I can't do both. Well, I can't do all three. And so I made the decision to start my business, um, and just continue speaking at schools and conferences. And my what I say that I do is I help kids find their community, manage their emotions, and establish connections. And I enjoy doing that because I was always the new kid, and I could find my community pretty quick, but I couldn't manage my emotions, but I did know how to establish connections. And so I can help kids do that now because I do all three now. Um, so that's what I do. But I do speak about my drug use as a kid. I started smoking at 12 years old, marijuana at 13, alcohol at 14, 15, just whatever you gave me. I didn't care. So I speak about that. But I speak mostly about leadership, overcoming adversity, coping skills and things like that. I don't focus too much on the drugs and the alcohol. Yes, they played a major role, um, but they were just a response to trauma and adverse childhood experiences.
Powerful, powerful stuff. So before I continue on, is that we're going to have all the links to Nathan's information in below. Follow him on Instagram. It's a fantastic journey. He does a great job, and it's a lot of fun. And what you said so much, and just to recap, is that Nathan's a youth empowerment speaker. I love what you put in your description. You're trauma informed teen mental health first aid instructor. You're a podcast host. You're a great guy. And then on your website, what I wrote down is I help students move from hardship to harmony so they can manage emotions, overcome obstacles, and maintain their mental health.
Yep.
And what's amazing, because I know most of the listeners here are our age, so I don't think I have any young people. But imagine yourself, like Nathan had said earlier, he needed him at that young, impressionable age. How many of us would have made different choices if we had someone who helped us move from hardship to harmony, to manage our emotions, overcome obstacles, and maintain our mental health? Imagine what we would have been capable of earlier in our life. And I'll challenge you even now, what can you do now if you're able
Yeah.
to manage your emotions, overcome obstacles, and maintain your own mental health? So, Nathan, equip our audience with something around how you talk to people about managing their emotions, because as you said, there's so much of that now, and division creates just it's a very polarizing response to something. So help people understand how to manage their emotions.
Yeah, so I mean, you have negative coping skills and you have positive coping skills, right? So, and there's negative stress and there's good stress, and you have to look at all of those things when you think about managing emotions. What causes good stress? Well, what causes good stress would be something like, if you play basketball, you might be that last second shot and you're the person they're going to, and that's good stress, right? Like you're the person they trust, you're the person they want to take that shot. That's good stress. What's bad stress? Well, you're the one that on the other team that missed the shot, and you know that you're going to go into that locker room and that coach is going to tell you how horrible you are for the next 45 minutes, not only in the locker room, but on the bus on the way home. That's bad stress. And so, how do you deal with that? Because mental health wise, what you're going to start doing is you're going to start going, maybe he's right. Maybe I'm not a good basketball player. Maybe I should find something else, some other sport to play. Maybe I should just give up sports altogether. You know what? Everybody's. I know where everybody's going to be at tonight. That's going to be drinking. Maybe I'll go there tonight, even though I've never drank before, and I'll just drink. Those are negative coping skills. Um, when we're in those moments of negative stress, number one, we have to take what people are saying with a grain of salt. They're angry. We have to understand that they're angry, and we can't control what they're saying. We can't control their behavior, but we can understand that they are having an emotion, and that their emotion has nothing to do with us. That their opinion does not determine our value. And if we can remember that, that's one of the things that I tell myself all the time is their opinion does not determine my value. And I tell kids that all the time because they'll come to me and they'll go, oh, well, somebody called me this name or they said this about me. And I'll say, well, but their opinion doesn't determine your value, does it? And they'll go, no. And I'll go, what does determine your value? And they'll usually they go, I don't know. And then it's like, well, your family, your faith, if you're trustworthy, like those things determine your value. So I always start with that. Like opinions don't determine value. The other thing I do is, there's always the positive coping skill of, okay, I'm going to take some deep breaths while this person is screaming at me, because I want to regulate that vagus nerve. It's the same thing as like if you're terrified to go on stage and speak, you're shaking, you're sweating, you're nervous. That's how you feel when you're scared too of someone who's yelling at you. But if you take like 3 deep breaths, the 4x4x4 method, your like vagus nerve calms down, you calm down, you feel a little bit more confident, and you're in a good spot, and you can go up on stage and speak. It's the same thing when someone's screaming at you and yelling at you. And so if you can do that while they're doing that, your body's calm, you become calm, and then you can start the positive self-talk within your own mind. You remember when you made that shot last week and everybody was really happy with you? You weren't a bad player then. Matter of fact, you practice more than everybody else does. That makes you a really great player. Um, I know that I'm a hard worker, and even though I missed the shot tonight, I'm going to go back to the gym tonight and I'm going to practice more because I am a hard worker and I believe in me. When you can do the positive self talk while somebody's doing the negatives, you're just combating everything that they're. It's almost like being in a courtroom, right? They're a lawyer, but you're the lawyer. But at the end of the day, you're the one that's right because you know you inside and out, and they don't live with you every day, they don't see you, they don't know every thought that you have. So it's those are just some of the things that I talk about when I'm talking about positive coping skills and dealing with emotions. Is you have to use the positive coping skills. The negative ones are going to take you down a path that you don't want to be down, and that path, it can leave you in a space for a long time. And the only way to get out of it is to use those positive coping skills or to ask for help. Um, One of the other things, too, I tell kids all the time is if you're in a situation where you can walk away, walk away. I mean, walk away. It's a great coping skill. The other person might get furious because you walked away. But if you're in a situation where you can, then just walk away. Do what's best for you. That's what you have to do is do what's best for you and the people in your life. Um, when we focus on what's best for the other person or what's best for just me, that's when we make really bad decisions. And if we think about our decisions and we go, okay, what's best for me and the people in my life? Like, how's this going to affect me, my guardians, my friends, my teachers, my principal, my community? Okay, maybe that's not the best decision. Maybe I should use a positive coping skill so that they're not all affected in a negative way.
Oh, there's so much good in that. So if you missed any of it, rewind and go back and listen to it. And what I jotted down was opinion. Someone else's opinion doesn't determine your value, and take what people are saying with a grain of salt. And I liked what you said is that you take people back to when they felt their best and anchor them in that feeling. There's a great book called the Four Agreements, and
Yep.
one of the things that it talks about there is other people's opinion doesn't determine your value, whether it's praise or putting you down.
Yep.
So many of us, and I'm raising my hand for those who can't see, we we strive for the positive reassurance and their affirmations because that makes us feel better. But there's a problem with that because when we don't get it, it doesn't have to be negative. It just, if
Right.
it's absent, we now start to, well, what did I do wrong? I didn't get the praise that I had been looking for. And so I'm preaching this to me right now, and I'm just saying it out loud is we shouldn't look for and strive for positive opinion. It's like you said earlier, did I do my best? Did I prepare well enough? Regardless of what the other person may say, because in life, let's say you're going for a job interview, and I've done this plenty of times, is if I leave the job interview and I know that I did everything that I could, I answered the questions to the best of my ability, I presented my resume, my qualifications the best I could. If I don't get the job, that doesn't mean anything about me personally. It means
Yep.
that I just didn't fit what that particular person was looking for. And it's tough. I
Yeah.
sound like I know it all and I don't battle, but I battle with that a lot because we talked about being a self employed. I mean, you're sending out tons of emails, you're reaching out to people, and I get way more no's than I get yeses.
That was one of the hardest things to deal with when I started, was the constant rejection, was the no, you're just not a good fit, or no, we looked at your website and we saw that you only talk to kids. And man, I'm telling you, at first it was like, oh, maybe I do only talk to kids. Jeez, I didn't think about that. And then after a while, I was like, well, I've already talked to adults, talk to adults all the time. I've spent years doing conferences and talking to adults. What am I telling myself? Like, I'm believing the narrative of what they're saying. And I don't know. It's that constant rejection is so hard when you have your own business. And that is why you have to have all of those. I don't know, you have to have those positive coping skills lined up, so that when you do start to feel that way, like, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to count to 10, and then I'm going to respond to this email in a really positive way. Like, oh, no, I don't just talk to kids. As a matter of fact, here's a review from an adult conference that I did. And, here's their email address, and I'd love for you to talk to them. Like, you have to have those things in place, because if not, then you can start to believe the lies. And I will say that even on the positive side too, is you can have a wall full of awards, and you can start to believe that you have the greatest value in everything that you do. But the reality of it is, you're not adding to anything. You're just you're just there, and the awards are there, and you've stopped. And it what I mean by that is, like, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts, right? You got all these awards, and you go, oh, all right, I did it. I'm done. Look at all these. I've accomplished my 100 awards. That was my goal, and I'm successful now. That's what made me. Or I got my one award, and I'm a success. And then, wait a minute, nobody's calling me. Nobody's asking for my opinion. Nobody nobody wrote me an email today. Maybe I'm not a success. Maybe this award don't matter. Like, we have to have those coping skills in place. And I don't know. Do you know the stop, think, act method?
I know start, stop, continue. Is that similar?
I don't
I
know.
don't know if I know that one. So
I
share
so
with us.
Yeah, so actually call it, I tell students to be a star. And I tell them, you're the star of the show. And so whenever you have a decision to make, um, the first thing you're going to do is stop. You're going to stop, take a deep breath. You're going to count to 10, whatever that looks like. You're going to think about, after you've done that, you're going to think about who and what your decision is going to affect, how it's going to impact you, your friends, your family, your community, all that stuff. Once you find a positive way to impact your friends, your family, your community, that's the act that you're going to take. You're going to take the positive act. After you've taken that act, and you're at home and you're sitting in your room, you're going to reflect on the opportunity, the thoughts, the decision, and the action. And then you're going to write down, like, what went well, what didn't go well, and you're going to throw what didn't go well out, and you're going to keep what went well. And the next time you're faced with a situation, you're going to take what went well in that decision making process, and you're going to use that. Um, I try to use that quite a bit, in my own life and with students, just because I know that when we do feel insecure, or when we feel negative, alone, that some of the things that we write down can be really impactful, especially the positive things like what did I do right? You know, like what went well in that situation. If I can read those things, man, my mood's changing and it's changing quick.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a great tactical skill because if for those of you it's STAR, it's stop, think, act, and reflect. And
Yep.
that's important because what we were talking about before of how to manage emotions, how to overcome obstacles, how to maintain your mental health, that one simple thing can really affect you in a positive way. The
Yep.
other thing that you talked about that I just want to bring up with for the audience to know and to hear is that we are our own worst critic. So you may not have somebody else speaking negatively to you, but you talked about positive coping skills. How do you react to when you are the negative one in your own head? And that's where the thinking has to be louder and more powerful than your thoughts because those thoughts are they're deafening some days
Yeah.
and they don't seem to stop. The other thing is those thoughts, they know the buttons to push. They know
Yeah.
exactly what they need to do to say to you. These are your own internal thoughts to get you to say no. So
Yeah.
that's where, like Nathan had said, is developing the skill and how to manage yourself through that. And one is, like you said, positive affirmations, writing a word down, looking at yourself in the mirror. Those are all critical things that you need to do that I wish as a young man, I wish I would have known because I could have avoided not every problem, but I would have avoided a
Yeah.
lot of them. But then more importantly, I would have felt stronger myself to know that I can do this and yes, I need help. I should be able to be strong enough to ask for help. But when all the lights are off and I'm the only one in my head, I can win that battle.
Yeah. There's a thing I did with a youth organization um 2 weeks ago. And actually I have it right here. They called it like my cup runneth over. And they had these bottles, these water bottles. And what they did was they had the water bottle open. They had post-it notes. You wrote your name on the water bottle, and then you just had people write something that they loved about the person and then dropped it in their water bottle. And everybody had to do that for each person. And so your cup would runneth over with positive things about you. And so when you are feeling down, or you're having a negative thought, um, red and blue looks good on you. Right, like you can pull something out and read it to yourself and think, you know what? Keep being funny. It lights up people's day. That's another thing that's in my cup. Like, okay, now I'm getting out of the mindset of, hey, maybe I'm not funny. You know, I told that joke the other day, and nobody laughed at it. Um, Now I'm getting out of that mindset, right? Like my cup runneth over. The other thing I would really encourage people to do is go to 10 different people that love you, um, that you know that just love you because they've told you before that they love you. Go to those 10 different people and take a book, take a journal, whatever it is, and number it 1 through 10 and say, would you write something that you love about me in this book? And just let them write. And then once all 10 are done, when you're having a negative thought, open up that journal, open up that book, and start reading. Because that will get you out of a really negative headspace pretty quick.
I love that. I think that's awesome. Several episodes ago, I talked about, not just listening to podcasts and feeling good, but taking something from the podcast that you can apply today. And that's something you can do. And I'll even try to make it simpler for some people is be proactive and write something that you love about somebody and send that to them. And there's a phone number success hotline that I don't call it every day, but it's a new one every single day. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but the phone number I got it from Brian Kane. The phone number is 973-743-4690. It's the success hotline. The guy's been doing it for 20 years or something, like every day.
Huh.
And it's like an old fashioned answering machine. You can actually leave a message and he'll listen to it. Now I never left a message that asked him to call me back, but he talked about doing a gratitude where you find someone that's done something in your life in a positive way that's impacted you, write them a letter, and then call them up, ask them for an appointment to go meet with them. And then when you go meet with them, the intention is you read the letter out loud to them before you hand them the letter. And I
Mm,
thought that was such a powerful thing because we just don't do that in life. We're quick to say, I need to talk to you for a few minutes when something's not going well and when they've bothered you in some way, shape, or form.
right.
But how often are we saying, hey, you know what? I need a few minutes of your time because I want to tell you how you've impacted my life in a positive way. Talk about changing somebody's day. Holy
Yeah.
smokes.
Yeah. I would even like, I'd even say, like, if you're in a position of leadership, if you are the CEO, you're the boss, and you start calling people to your office, do it for that reason, right? Like, I remember being called to the office and thinking, oh gosh, if you're a principal, start calling students to the office and reading them, hey, I noticed the other day that you were walking down the hallway and there was some trash on the floor and you picked it up. And I've always noticed that about you, that you are always someone who's concerned about the way that our school looks, and you take pride in the way that our school looks, and that positive behavior just shines through you. Like, do that for students and see the culture of your school change quickly. And not just for the students that are making the good grades and they're on the sports teams. Do it for every single student in that school. Find everybody's watching, or somebody's always watching, right? Be that somebody that's always watching, and find something for every single student and then share it with them. I mean, you want to talk about positive change. And isn't that the ultimate tool, though, Jeff? Gratitude. Like, let's talk about managing emotions. Gratitude is going to be the ultimate tool. It is. If I will tell, our dishwasher broke, right? And I listen. I don't typically do the dishes. That's not my responsibility. I do other things, but I don't typically do the dishes. But I know that my kids hate hand washing the dishes. Not something they want to do. Um, but the other day, I heard one of them whisper, "At least we have dishes." And I was like, yeah, you are right. Because we could live in a situation where we didn't have anything. Gratitude's the ultimate coping skill. It is.
You just dropped a massive bomb there. So I want to be respectful of your time. And again, we could go for at least another
I
hour or
know.
two
I know.
without even blinking because I still have things that I want to ask, but I want to be sensitive to your time and then also the listeners. This isn't a Joe Rogan 4 hour
Right, right.
marathon, even though it could be. We could
We
just chop
could.
it up in multiple ones. But do you have anything you'd like to leave the audience with today?
Um, yeah. Um, I'll go back to the gratitude thing. Um, well, let me just do this first. And I don't know who your listeners are, or where they're at, but the first thing that I want to tell them or leave them with is that, I don't know what's going on in your life right now. I don't know if it's difficult, if it's easy. I don't know if things are going right, if things are going wrong. Either way, um, God God put you on this earth for a purpose, and a reason. And whatever the situation in your life is right now, don't forget to worship and glorify Him in everything that you're going through, whatever it is. Because I know that in the bad times we forget to do that, and in the good times we forget to do that. And so whatever's happening in your life, make sure that you give all the glory to God and that you praise Him for what's going on in your life right now. Um, the second thing is, just the gratitude. I'm so thankful that I I am where I am today. But I'm where I'm at today only because of the blood of Jesus, and that's it. I mean, I'm a sinner saved by grace, and I don't deserve to be where I am. I don't I didn't earn it. There's nothing that I did to earn this, but it was gifted to me, and now it's my responsibility. And so, whatever position you're in, if you are a manager, if you're a coach, whatever it is, you've been gifted that position, and you have an opportunity to be grateful for it, to show gratitude for it. And the way that you do that is by how you treat your team, whether that's a football team, whether that's a store team, whatever that is. You show your gratitude by how you treat them, and I'm telling you, I love to see a team that plays with gratitude because I know where that comes from. It comes from the top down. Um, just be grateful, man, because you only have one life, and you can spend it being ungrateful, but when you look back, you're going to wish that you would have spent more time being grateful. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. If you're breathing right now, you still got time to change it up and be grateful. So that's how it's not special, but that's what I'll leave them with, is just have the attitude of gratitude, man. That's
There
it.
you go. That's super special. Thank you. So how can people find and follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at that Nathan Ray. And you can find me at nathanrayspeaks.com.
Yep. So I'll have all that information down below. So if you're a school, an organization that deals with young people and old people, and when I say old, I mean adults like us,
Adults.
youth and adults,
Youth
Nathan's
and
your
adults.
guy because as he shared, he has a gift of being able to connect with the heart, and he's been through it, and he wants to help those who are where he was and help them overcome a lot of the things that he's been learning how to overcome. So reach out to him. Nathan, it was an absolute pleasure today. I knew it was going to be great.
Fun.
You're an awesome human, so I really appreciate you.
So are you. I've enjoyed this, and Matt Scaletti says hello, and told me it would be a really good time. So
That's
yeah,
right. I
yeah,
forgot that we just, again, the
I
world is
know.
a small
Small.
place. So I had Matt on many episodes ago, met him a long time ago through social media, and then got to meet him in person on the mountain at 29029. Dude is fired out of a cannon, and he's a great people too.
Yeah. Did I tell you I'm officiating his wedding?
You
Yeah.
did.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, this is Nathan Ray. Nathan, hang on a second. I appreciate
Cool.
you, and we'll talk to y'all
Thanks for having
soon.
me. Thanks for
You're
having me.
welcome. Thanks for joining us on the Pathways to Greatness podcast. We hope that today's conversation inspired you to take steps towards your own greatness. Remember, every journey starts with a single step. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit. Actually, share it with 3 people that you might think it might benefit. Until next time, keep pursuing your passions and carving your own path to greatness. Take care.